We have a lot of migrants in our business that are from all corners of the world in all different offices and locations. And there's a very big calling for me to be able to empower them. And not just from technical skills, but I actually think the interpersonal soft skills is probably the most important one to not only have an impact on their career, but like knowing this stuff, I'm a better husband, I'm a better father, I'm a better community leader. And I think that's what actually has a better impact on the world.
Welcome to Powered by Instinct, a podcast for professionals who think about how your fundamental nature drives performance. If you're interested in getting more done more naturally, then let's jump in.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Powered by Instinct. I'm Stephanie Clergé, VP of People Development at Kolbe Corp, and I'm excited to be welcoming the CEO and founder of ServiceRocket, Rob Castaneda. Hi, Rob. Thanks so much for being here today.
G'day. Thanks for having me, Stephanie.
So as a reminder to the folks in the audience, my 4-number Kolbe MO is 8363 and Rob's MO is 3384. So Rob, I'm really curious. Do you remember when you first took the Kolbe A Index and what was the impact that it made on you?
It was many years ago. We were going through a bunch of different profiling systems and tools. Aaron, our COO at the time, was a big fan of Kolbe and suggested that we do it. I found it to be very practical in what it gave. And I thought it was accurate. And as a quick start, I was like, okay, what's next?
So do you have a sense of how does your MO show up every day? How do you use it in your life and work?
I think that's evolved a little bit. Initially, when you do these kind of profiling things, it's about you and you're like, oh, wow, like this is cool. I think being a computer nerd, I kind of then took a step back and said, okay, let me look at all the things that are around it, understanding kind of everyone else in the team. And also, I think for me, a big part of it has helped me be deliberate and make a choice about the mode that I need to be in at different times. Like the part that I really enjoyed initially was being able to compare my profile with Aaron's or other executives in the company, give some pointers and take the edge off some frustration that you might be having.
Is your leadership team pretty similar to you?
No, not everyone. I think we have a good variety of folks on the team. I think it's important to have a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different backgrounds and different roles. And I think for me, just generally having a philosophy that when we're trying to fill a role, we're looking at that as an opportunity for somebody to grow into the role. Whereas sometimes you can have a strategy of looking somebody to sit in the seat that you already have, which means they'll do exactly what they did before. And I think that's a key part of what makes us unique.
Absolutely. How about you tell us a little bit about ServiceRocket, what you do?
Yeah, I started the company in 2001 when I was 21 and really didn't know what a business was and didn't really know any of this kind of stuff. But what we do is we partner with smart, fast-growing enterprise software companies and we help them build out their ecosystem. And what does that mean? Well, whenever a company buys a software product, it's great that they just turn it on and it's running, but it needs to be integrated with all the different processes, systems, change management, the right support, the right customizations, the right workflows. And then we get into building apps and other extensions that are needed to really get the most out of the software. So we partner with great software companies. We do a lot of work with a partner of ours called Atlassian, who is a very popular company. Been working with them since 2003 and really helping customers expand and get more and more out of the software. And that requires us to have Rocketeers who are able to be creative in their thinking and not just, hey, I'm just going to do A and B and migrate data and I'm done. But they're going to really be inquisitive about the customer and the challenges that are there. So it really helps them to be inquisitive and understanding about themselves. But also if you're in a room of 5 or 6 people trying to solve a problem as a consultant or a trainer, having that awareness of, the tendencies that are in the room can really give you confidence that, okay, this is how I should run the session, or this is, maybe I need to explain something in detail or go back over it again and just give people the confidence that they can handle the situation.
I love that. I love that you're kind of bringing together, people's strengths and not just their contributions, but the confidence that it gives them in their results and output. But I want to roll back for a minute because you said Rocketeers. Can you tell us what is a Rocketeer?
That's what we call ourselves versus employees. I think we're all on the same team. We're all on the same aligned missions together and the overall mission of the company. We have each other's backs. And, for us, the underlying premise of the people side of the business is to help Rocketeers learn and grow so they can have an impact on their careers, they can have an impact on their families, and they can have an impact on their community.
It sounds like you have a broader mission beyond just, what you're doing for your customers every day. It starts kind of from the inside with your employees and what they care about most.
Yeah, I mean, we're all people, right? There's so much stuff in the world today that when you think about it, you're spending a third of your life or more at work. And, a mentor of mine just did this exercise with me many years ago, and he just kept saying, and then what, right? Like, so what do you want? Yeah, and then what? And then what? And if you ask yourself, and then what, over and over and over again, at the start, it's more material stuff, right? Well, I want to get a house, and I want to get a nice house, and I want to have a good car. I want to make sure my kids go to college. I want to maybe a vacation home, and I'll take care of my parents. And then what? It becomes, I guess, but for me, it became more about, okay, well, what am I contributing back? Myself being, both my parents were migrants. I'm a migrant now across in the USA as an Aussie. We have a lot of migrants in our business that are from all corners of the world in all different offices and locations. And there's a very big calling for me to be able to empower them. And not just from technical skills, like I can write code, therefore I'm going to do well, but I actually think the interpersonal soft skills is probably the most important one to not only have an impact on their career, but like knowing this stuff, I'm a better husband, I'm a better father, I'm a better community leader. And I think that's what actually has a better impact on the world.
We all have to figure out how we're going to use our instinctive strengths along with, our intelligence and our personalities to really make that difference for the long term. But what made you decide that everyone in your company needed to know their instinctive strengths? I think you also maybe dabbled in some other assessments as well, right?
I kind of love playing around with all this stuff. I think the curiosity of learning and having that help you get better. I always feel like CEOs, we're kind of spoiled in that we can do a lot of these kind of things, and we can attend a lot of training or be part of CEO organizations. I think sometimes we're delicate flowers from that point of view, but all of my Rocketeers, they're the CEOs of their lives, right? So how can I empower them or give them a hand up and give them some knowledge to help? But really, it takes away, it untangles stuff, right? If you've got a sore muscle with a knot and you massage it out, these are the kind of tools and understanding to know that in an organization, all the little dysfunctions that get created are all these little things of awareness that can help solve themselves. And every big problem you have in a company, every big problem starts off as a small problem or a repetitive habit of a small problem. Very few times, if any, that I can remember that, oh my God, that's a big problem. And it started off as a big problem, right?
Sure.
Especially the ones that are controllable. Most things start off as annoying habits. And what is something that's annoying? And our default reaction is that's something someone is doing to us. And, I think there's always parts on both sides that can be looked at.
I think that's so interesting with, two people who have a different set of strengths. If one person does something, you immediately think, oh, it's about you. Stephanie's trying to do this to Rob, like her 8 in fact finder, she's trying to do this to Rob. But once you understand, it's this is how she naturally takes action, right? It kind of opens up the possibilities that maybe I wasn't intentionally trying to give you too much information, but instead I just need that information in order to move forward.
Yeah, and I joke around a little bit. The fact finders in our company cop a little bit from me. I'm like, oh, fact finders, please hold off right now, right? Like, just bear with me, right? But I think just calling it out, stuff like that, makes it. I'm a big fan of humor, and I'll pick on myself just as much as kind of generic things like that. But it also helps people be aware, like, oh yeah, my tendency is going to be to ask 1,000 questions, and I'm going to miss the message, right? And so I think it can help you in that regard quite a lot. And ultimately, as a leader, you want to be an effective communicator. So, why wouldn't you want a little bit of a insight into the audience that you're trying to communicate with?
Absolutely. Well, and that's one of the things that we do. I think we did this exercise with your team as well, which is, what's one tip that you can give somebody for working with you, right? So you can just wait until the problems happen and have to detangle them and try to solve them. Or you can, kind of get ahead of it by understanding how people naturally problem solve and make decisions, and then start to tell each other, hey, I'm just in brainstorming mode, right? So let's hold back on the justifications until we get through this part. Or, this person really needs their questions answered. So why don't we get those questions answered before the meeting so it doesn't drag the meeting on? Those kinds of things that can really help. So I love it that you invested in your team with Kolbe. Obviously, that's something that's really important to you. And I remember talking to you. We got on a call with one of your HR leaders. And what really impressed me about working with you, and I think this was back in 2021, was you didn't just kind of want it to be a one and done sort of thing. You came in
Yep.
and you said, we're going to do 4 sessions. You have people all across the world. I think we did it live, but also there was some recording and people jumped in, even, they woke up early or stayed up late in order to hear the Kolbe information. So I thought that
Yeah.
was really great.
Yeah, I think it's a human trait, right? Especially if you're working in a creative environment where everyone has an absolute hunger and thirst to learn
Mm,
because they're not spending their time defending and justifying what they've done. And that for me is whenever I see someone justifying and defending what they've done, they're not creative,
mm,
right? So they're on the back foot. And I think a big part of our philosophy at ServiceRocket is how do we empower as many Rocketeers as possible and be their most reliable partner in helping them grow, right? And so there's a big part of me is really trying to democratize a lot of the stuff that I learn, right? Like I was saying before, I get access and I learn about these things and it's like, okay, we did these as an exec team or as a CEO. It's now kind of standard procedure, right? Everyone has it, everyone has access. We run those sessions at various different time zones because we're in 12 locations and managers also having the opportunity to learn how to do it. The comparison feature is
mm.
fantastic for a manager to at least get to know their team and say, great, here's my profile and someone else's. This is what I might do that might piss them off. Okay, let me make sure I don't do that. Sometimes what I do is I make fun of that, right? And, just kind of call it out. What really bugs me sometimes is that all of the profiles and all this information is kind of held in the HR team. It's kind of like, well, like to me, that's like a power dynamic that doesn't need to exist, right? And so what we did is we put all of that. We took the Kolbe infrastructure, work with your team, and we everyone has their Kolbe number, the MO on their profile, but we have a little software system that people can pick themselves and pick somebody else and they can get the comparison report. And so that means, hey, and it can be like someone can compare their report to me, right? And I get Rocketeers that reach out and say, hey, I'm just like you. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry, right? Like we, I know how it feels, right? Um, but also empowering people to do that doesn't mean that you have to go back to HR and ask them questions all the time. And trying to really nurture and empower people to do that is a big part of our philosophy.
Yeah. So I want to kind of step back to the initial rollout, and then I want
Yep.
to hear more about how individuals are able to get access to the comparisons A to A information that you were just talking about. So when you did the initial rollout, so we did one for the whole
Yep.
company. Then we brought in just the managers to kind of talk more about how
Yep.
they could work with their teams. Then we did a session with HR and managers on hiring, and then we brought the whole company back to talk about productivity and
Yep.
collaboration. And so after we did kind of that, staged rollout, now it sounds like they still take it as a part of onboarding. Is that kind of how that works? They take
Yeah,
the
we still
PA?
do it. We still do it on onboarding. I think with a lot of these things, we think about the cadence of like if you run things every quarter on the same stuff, it loses its polish, right? So probably every couple of years, it's due to come back. It's kind of like a Taylor Swift tour, right? It's the Colby tour is coming on. Um, you know, shake it off, and then everyone can get back into it. And after that week of concerts, you're like, okay, I'm done for a while. Right? But the song's still playing in your head, right? The
Sure.
things are still there. So I think at the right time, it's good to do that. And also, you guys have been a really great partner in terms of not just like here's the credits, go and use the website, be done. So a lot of the other platforms out there are kind of like that. I kind of like that there's a good engagement between us, and you've been very flexible with some of our weird time zone requests and how we want to roll out the training and do things because that's the way we are. But in that, there's a little bit of nuance in like for us, and I think for every company, but for us in particular, we really, really value above anything else the impact that a manager can have on a Rocketeer's experience at the company. And when you look at as a company grows and scales, how effective your managers are is really directly correlated to your ability to scale. So putting in a lot of time and energy and effort in trying to empower managers. And that's why when we do training, we want to be democratic and let everyone do things, but we also want to make some things special for managers
Sure.
because I think it's important for them to have a safe space because they're not only trying to take on the material for themselves, they in turn then have to turn around and be empowered to use it to help drive the performance of someone else. If they're not confident, they won't do it, right? The impacts of them not being fully empowered is quite significant.
Yeah, no, I love that you did take that space. And then, when it came to something more like hiring, then you brought HR and the hiring managers together so that they could
Yeah.
learn together. Because a lot of times, as you mentioned, HR can kind of work in a silo and managers can kind of work in a silo. Or worst case scenario, they kind of have to duke it out and to figure out what does hiring really look like. So bringing the various constituencies together. And I also love what you said about, leaders having access, because I think that is so true. I know you were a member of EO and some other entrepreneur
Yeah.
organization and some other organizations that really you get the coaching and the nurturing and all of that kind of stuff. And so the fact that you're willing to invest that in every single employee versus just your managers, I think is amazing. I like to think of enlightened leaders as people who know that there's something that needs to be done, but you're really one of those exceptional leaders that actually does it and then
Oh, thank
follows
you.
up on it. I love it.
Thank you. I mean, like first impressions make a lot, right? You see some companies when some new employee joins, they'll give you a box of gifts and chocolates and all this kind of stuff. And I think that's kind of cool. But I'm like, well, what can we give them that they can take with them forever, right? So if we
Mhm.
help someone grow and learn about themselves, and you're giving them profile information and leadership training and other things that go with it, it's I think it's a lot more impactful than swag, right? Not that swag isn't, we don't love it, right? It's all there. And, I'm waiting for my Kolbe t-shirt or whatever you guys do. Um,
I'm making it now.
but,
What's your
um,
shirt size, Rob?
there we go. I'm a medium. But there's something really, really interesting is just that in many of the other profile systems, not all of them, but in many of them, it's kind of like, here's who you are, you're done. And I think here it's with Kolbe, especially on an individual level and without going very heavyweight, it's for me, it's just a system of understanding. And then I know what levers I have to pull, what levers I have to pull, right? So that I can adjust my behavior the way that fits a situation. Also, if I'm gonna do something that I'm not naturally comfortable with, I will hack my environment to make it work for me.
Yeah, I love that you're taking those technical skills of hacking and applying it to to your collaborations and getting results. It's a different perspective for sure. Okay, so are there some specific examples that you wanted to sort of focus on about how Colby made a difference in your company? It sounds like it certainly made a difference for you and the way that you interact as a leader. Anything come to mind that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, I think that point that I was just chatting about is so being aware of, okay, your natural tendency isn't these things. I think what we try and do is explain to people, look, you might be low follow through. It doesn't mean you can't get stuff done. It just means that you need to be aware of it, right? So, I'm low follow through and I'm low, what am I, low fact finding, right? High quick start. But I'm a computer science guy. And from the time of like 2018, 2019, we rebuilt this business. Like we were not in a good shape as a company. We kind of got to the next stage and then kind of like, okay, wow, everything's broken, nothing's working, it's all falling apart. And we systematically, I'll talk about right? Because I systematically broke down everything in front of me, was very driven by data, and had high follow through for years that I had to keep doing this quarter by quarter, week by week, month by month, day by day, system by system, to the point of like, knowing every data and every cell and what's going on in whatever we're doing. So, and I was talking before about hacking the environment. Like if I'm going to be in a data gathering mode or a high fact finding mode, there's like 3 or 4 songs that I listen to, and I'll put my headphones on, and that's the mode I'm in. And those will help me focus and help me get on with what I'm doing. The simplest thing for me for a follow through, because it's not my natural thing, is I'll carry around a piece of paper with the 3 things that I said I would do today, and I'll make sure I get them done, right? And every time I put my hand in my pocket, what's this freaking paper again? Oh, I've got to do it, right? And so the that's very different than just saying, well, I'm not high follow through. Someone else
Sure.
can clean up my crap, right? And then they do it. So I think there's an onus of accountability and self responsibility to say, cool. On the same token, I'm high quick start, But I also know that for every new idea that I throw out, a whole bunch of people have a whole bunch of work to do or a whole bunch of stuff to process. So we use Jira, like we're a big Atlassian company here, and we use Jira, and the top of our workflow was like, I've got a new opened issue, right? So when people have new ideas, they go, let's put all the ideas in the project, and in they go. And as I was putting in all these ideas, they're going to this stage for us called discovery, which is we're not committed to it, but we're just going to look at it. But what I realized is that I would put things in discovery, and then it generalized a bit, but the high fact finders would grab it and they would start doing discovery. And if you think about the brain of a normal person generates lots of ideas. The brain of an entrepreneur doesn't stop generating ideas.
Right.
And as a systematic person, I'm piling in all my ideas in the system. Little do I know that everyone's wasting time doing discovery on these half-baked, crappy ideas that I have. So what we did is, in that system, we then created a new status. YC and I, YC is our head of technology. We created this new status called Great Idea. And everyone's like, what is great idea? And it literally is that. That's a great idea, right? Roll your eyes, right? Look at my Apple camera.
Oh,
right?
wow.
So, the great idea kind of became this sarcastic thing to say, oh, that's just one of Rob's great ideas. Like, that's just a great idea. That's a great, and so the whole point of the company now is that if you see a great idea, you can just call it a great idea and you do not have to do anything. We'll come back later on, and a week later, they have like a radioactive half-life, right? Of like a week, right? Or maybe even a day. Like a great idea you have today, tomorrow is kind of half good, and then it just diminishes.
Sure.
So after a week, you come back, and most of the great ideas you can just get rid of, but there's a couple there that are really good. You're like, okay, let's do discovery on those. So that was an idea of like, how do we use a system between heavy fact finder, heavy follow through engineers and crazy entrepreneur generating lots of ideas? How do you balance between them? And then kind of, have a bit of fun with it. And again, the humor just takes it to another level, right? Because people are like, oh yeah, they get a great idea, mate. Like,
you mean fireworks don't go off every time?
Yeah, fireworks go. Oh, that's on cue. So when you see it in everyone else's language, like, that's a great idea. And the cool thing is, we call out great idea in workshops and in meetings, and it kind of kills the conversation in a good way. It stops going down the rabbit hole, because quick starts in a meeting, just like this podcast right now, we're going everywhere, right? And so by having that kind of system, like, that's a great idea, I've tracked it, that's a great idea. And then it's like, as a quick start, you're like, well, that they gave me what I wanted, right?
I got the recognition for my idea. I'm done.
So let's celebrate fireworks. Great idea. Fantastic. And then you're kind of laughing at yourself at the same time, right? So anyway, so that's an example of using technology with the awareness.
I love that. And I love that it's, not just one system that you're putting in, but it sounds like you're infusing it throughout the culture, right? It comes back in other meetings, and, it's a way of working together. It's a way of collaboration. It's not just, oh, this is something that helps Rob. It's something that everybody can kind of engage and use their strengths a little bit differently to come together.
Yeah, I mean, that's a direct outcome of setting up the model where you are empowering other people with the knowledge, and then you can use that knowledge to elevate the whole company, right? I use the word model there because modeler always gets forgotten in the in the rankings.
Yep. Well, and I love that you say empowered. That's how we measure our success, as lives empowered, because we do believe that Kolbe is helping to empower lives. And so it's great. It's great to see entrepreneurs like you and companies like yours that are, using Kolbe to do that empowerment. That's great. Okay, well, I think, we have covered a lot of ground. So kind of one or two more questions here. What is your best piece of advice for leaders who want to get better at the people part of their business? Because it feels like you figured this out, or at least are on a great part of your journey here. What would you say to others?
We're a people-heavy business, right? And the success and growth of our Rocketeers is our business. We do fun projects that have great outcomes for our customers. We're their most reliable partners. But we can't be reliable if we're not, in turn learning and growing as Rocketeers. It wasn't by design that I took over on the people area. I had just got to a point where the way I thought about it, and the way I thought we should do it wasn't what was common. And I think what gets taught, maybe in business school or what have you, a lot of folks tend to want to roll out what they learned. And I think this whole space has evolved, right? Human performance. We used to be told, and even me, I used to like, hey, separate work from home. Now it's like, well, we're all just people. This is our tribe. We're all together. We'll have fun while we're here, and we'll celebrate when you leave because you've been a part of us and you've helped contribute. Right. So I think it's too easy for CEOs or entrepreneurs to be like, okay, let me hire someone. You do that. You do the culture part. I'll do the other part of the business. And I think you need to be a true partner and think about that you're growing a tree and you are the base of where the root and the trunk live or are there. And if you do it the other way, where you're just like a sub branch, then someone else is going to grow that with their knowledge and influence. And it's just not going to be the same as unless you're both together. Right. So what we've done is really break apart what is a traditional HR function. We've actually put all of our operational groups together and we call it Rocket Ops. And what that means is every project operationally that comes through the company has a lens from people, the HR side, from the legal side, from the finance side, and from the IT technology side. And so it's one channel of projects and processes that come out. So as Rocketeers, our customers, right, of what comes out of Rocket Ops. So if they're saying I need HR help, they're like, no, I need help, or I need help as a manager, I need help as a Rocketeer. And so what we've done is really build things in an integrated way. And so then within the people area, by using technology, the Atlassian service desks, so that we can automate as much of these kind of HR and service management type things and make them help desk related. We have, and then with our performance framework that we've rolled out and all the benefits work and all that kind of stuff we've done, we've realized that we don't need kind of like traditional HR. Instead, the bulk of our budget now goes into leadership development and proactive things that provide value versus I think the traditional approach is a lot about defending a company. And, HR is seen as it's an interesting play on power and dynamics on where it sits and what it does. And we're just kind of like, okay, what do we need that for? Why wouldn't we optimize all the process stuff, make things very fair and as transparent as we legally and ethically can, make everything fair, make it pass a fairness test internally, and then push all of our energy and effort into growing leaders and leadership development. So that's what we've been doing.
That's great. So first of all, I was waiting for that foreign implementer to come out. I love your analogy about the tree. And so don't be a sub branch is certainly one key takeaway, right? You can't be a sub branch when it comes to managing your people. You kind of have to be there at the root and building the roots. And
yeah, and you can find a great partner to work with, but I also think it's unfair to say, I'm going to hire an HR leader and you go do that and I'll go and do product or sales or something. It's like, well, I think you're going to have limited success. And I think a lot of when I hear stories of a lot of other founders and folks that might have had issues with their company or whatever, you can trace back a lot of things to not getting some of that stuff right.
Well, and you're not just doing this within your own company, you're starting to spread some of the word of that to others through your blog, right? You have a blog where you talk about some of what you've done and some of the leadership.
Oh yeah. So yeah, we the journey that we went on from 2018 onwards and building everything, my mentor said, hey, you're a model for a lot of other companies out there. Why don't you share more? And so I set up a Substack at leadershipbehaviors.org. Whenever I have energy as a quick start, I'll write an article and I'll get through them. When I release them, read them quickly before they run out. But no, it's a good place. And actually I coach and mentor a lot of other entrepreneurs. And so as some of them ask me questions, I just say, well, let me write an article on what we've done and I'll share that. So I hope I can keep that going.
That's great. That's great. Yeah. I am a reader. I am a subscriber to your blog. I love hearing what you have to say.
Thank you.
And just we don't have time to go to it in depth on the podcast, but everybody needs to hear what Rob has to say about core values versus leadership behaviors. That was a really key insight for me. Because you can. Well, anyway, I'll let you go find that on your own. But just really some great insights for leaders. So that's fantastic.
Thank you, Stephanie.
All right. So, is there anything else that we haven't talked about that you wanted to mention regarding Kolbe or the people part of your business? Otherwise, we'll wrap this up.
Yeah, I would just encourage folks to lean into it, and I think educating your managers and investing in your managers in programs like this are. It doesn't seem natural. Oh wow, let's give this to managers, and they actually love this kind of stuff. And starting to challenge them to saying, okay, hey, every time you guys hire somebody, did you realize that you hire the same profile all the time,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, oh, okay. And so what defines a good fit is not one of us, right? So there's some good challenges you can do as a leader and find some, we all have biases, and this is a great framework and tool and infrastructure to use to make yourself better, make your team better, and make your company better.
Absolutely. Well, Rob, thank you so much for spending time with me. This was so much fun. I've actually been, had this on my list of things and could not wait to jump on with you. I've had so much fun working together. Look forward to doing more of that in the future. And also, I think you get the award for most innovative description of Kolbe, including Taylor Swift. I think that
There we go.
deserves
I,
some.
I have two daughters and a wife that are Swifties, so I'm the driver.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Everybody's got to have their role.
I went to one as well too. I think it was a long time ago.
You blacked out through part of it.
Yeah.
Too much sparkles. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. So thank you so much to Rob Castaneda. To learn more about ServiceRocket, go to servicerocket.com. And we also talked about Rob's blog on Substack. So definitely find that and take a read. It's awesome. And as always, the best place to start using Kolbe is to go to kolbe.com and find the freedom to be yourself. Also, we have Kolbe certified consultants all around the world. So just go to our consultant search on kolbe.com to find a consultant near you. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Powered by Instinct. If you enjoyed this episode, then follow Powered by Instinct wherever you get your favorite podcasts, or join us online at kolbe.com/podcast for all the latest episodes.